Would you look at that? Just as many of us were starting to wonder if we were gonna get another trailer for Black Panther Wakanda Forever ahead of its November 11th release, out of pretty much nowhere, Marvel Studios gave us just that. A fresh look at the movie, with a ton of new footage to whet our palates and keep us satiated until the movie comes out. Of course, for all the questions it answered, there are just as many that it didn't. So why not take a look at it? Let's pick out some of the major moments from the trailer and discuss. I'm John Aljets, and let's go ahead and dive right into it. So, okay, instead of doing a shot-by-shot breakdown of this trailer like I have with other movies in the past, I instead really want to laser focus in on the key moments. So, to that end, let's touch upon the highlights. First up, the trailer opens with more of that somber yet somewhat celebratory footage that we saw in that first teaser. You know, where everyone is dancing in white. This is very clearly a celebration of life type ceremony for T'Challa, who is obviously no longer with us. One of the big questions that have been on people's minds since we received news that T'Challa was not going to be recast following the tragic passing of actor Chadwick Boseman is how his character would be written out of the MCU. And sadly, this trailer doesn't really do much to help answer that question. I guess that's something we'll just have to wait to see the movie to have answered. That is, if they answer it at all. They could just pull a T'Challa past, blam, here's the plot of the movie kind of thing. Though I doubt we'll do that, since a major element of this film seems to be the people of Wakanda mourning his loss. So it's safe to assume that the answer to that question will play a pivotal role. Perhaps Namor, or whoever is potentially pulling his strings, might have had a hand in T'Challa's passing. Could definitely serve as a very emotionally charged inciting incident. Intercut with all this celebration of life stuff are shots of Namor in his underwater kingdom. Now, in the comics, the place that Namor rules over is Atlantis. However, in the MCU, this is instead somewhere known as Talokan, which is not really a thing in the comics. This is a new place for the MCU specifically. This change was probably done for a couple of different reasons. One, to help distance Namor from his DC counterpart Aquaman, who is also the king of Atlantis, and to better play into the cultural aesthetic that they're going for, which is based very heavily off of Central and Southern American peoples, mainly the Aztecs. The name, Talokan, most likely comes from Tlalocan, which, in addition to me probably mispronouncing, is an underworld of sorts within Aztec culture ruled over by their rain god. It is said to be the place where those who died due to water or storm-related situations go to spend their afterlife. So it being the name of an underwater city is actually pretty appropriate. We see an empty throne, a rather somber image all things considered, and then some shots of Namor's undersea soldiers attacking an EnviroPlus tanker. As we see later on, these soldiers are wearing some kind of special face mask, presumably to allow them to breathe out of water, as it is more than likely that, as it is on the page, Namor is seemingly the only one who is able to both breathe underwater and in the open air, due to being, you know, a mutant. Speaking of Namor being a mutant, one of the more absurd things about his early design in the comics was how he was able to fly, that being via tiny wings on his ankles. Wakanda Forever seems to lean on these as well, opting to include them in his design and utilize them as opposed to steering away from this old school design element. On the subject of Namor's design, director Ryan Coogler said in a recent interview, quote, "I think with making these types of movies, you've got to lean into the weird stuff, or you risk missing what makes it fun. He's got really unique features and things that don't necessarily go together. He can breathe underwater, obviously, but he's got these little wings on his ankles. He's got pointy ears and walks around in his underwear. It's all fun, man." And he seems to be bringing his pointy ears and little wings to war, as he has some serious beef with Wakanda, even going so far as to flood the place. But the heroes of Wakanda are not going to be standing on their own in this film against the torrential downpour, as we got our first proper glimpse at Riri Williams' Ironheart suit taking to the skies. It's definitely pretty bulky from what we've seen, more in line with Iron Man's Mark I armor than any of his later suits, but given that she'll be headlining her own Disney Plus show in the not too distant future, I'm confident that'll get slimmed down over time. And finally, we get our big shot of the trailer, as the new Black Panther drops out of the sky and lands while striking a stern superhero pose. Now, we still don't 100% know who is in that suit. It's probably a safe bet that it's Shuri, because there is comic precedence there, but it could very well be somebody else. All we really know is that it is a female presenting character. Personally, I think it would be really cool to see Nakia take up the mantle within the MCU. Given her close proximity to T'Challa, it could be emotionally cathartic to see her carry on his role within the franchise, and would be a nice point within her character arc, going from the independent lone agent who wants to help people on the micro scale, suddenly stepping up to handling the more macro issues. It would be awesome, in my opinion. But it's totally probably Shuri, because as they say, blood is thicker than water. $10 says someone says that line in this movie, by the way. I mean, it's perfectly set up. They'd be crazy not to take the bait. Fish pun. Nice. Hey there everybody, I'm John Aljets. I'm in this video and I want to know what you think. Who do you think is in the Black Panther suit? Be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, or go ahead and shoot me a response over on Twitter. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to ScreenRant for more awesome videos just like this in the future. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go pre-order my tickets.